Magical Overthinkers. Wait, don't skip. I gotta tell you something. My book Cultish is finally coming out in paperback, and I'm hosting 2 incredibly special live tour events to celebrate. The first is in LA on June 9th and is a culty live podcast book tour variety show featuring so many special guests, including my co-host Reese, former guests Jamie Loftus, Raven Simonet, and Miranda Pierman Mayday, plus drag and burlesque performances and other transcendent surprises. And then I'm doing an event on June 13th in New York, moderated by the cult-followed author Coco Mellers. Check out amandamontell.com/events for info and tickets. I so hope you join us for these oh-so special events. I know all too well that starting a business can be super intimidating and a little bit lonely at times, which is why I am so glad that tools like Shopify exist. Finding the right business tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such an incredible game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/magical. Go to shopify.com/magical. Shopify.com/magical. I was never into bras until I discovered Skims. They felt constricting and pokey and I didn't want to mess with it. But I have been wearing the Skims Fits Everybody collection bras for 3 years and my tatas have never looked better. I really appreciate Skims sizing. Their sizing range is substantial. Shop Skims Fits Everybody collection at skims.com and Skims New York flagship on 5th Avenue. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, a great reminder that if you've been thinking about trying therapy, there is no time like the present. Whatever your concern is, ZocDoc helps you easily find and book mental health providers based on what matters most to you. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. I have been a ZocDoc user for going on 7 or 8 years. I literally don't book doctor's appointments any other way. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/magical to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/magical. ZocDoc.com/magical. Welcome to the Magical Overthinkers podcast, a show for thought spiralers, exploring the subjects we can't stop overthinking about, from imposter syndrome to people pleasers. If you ever get the feeling that despite living in the information age, life only seems to be making less sense, or if you identify as a thought spiraler, a dreamer, someone who lives in their head, then you're in the right place. This podcast is here to soften the clash between the innately irrational ways in which our brains work and the overwhelm of this time. I'm your host, Amanda Montell. Today, with the help of the brilliant social commentator Dasia Sade, whose YouTube think piece titled How Billionaires Became Our Gods inspired today's episode, we're going to be overthinking about billionaire worship. Dasia, thank you so much for joining the Magical Overthinkers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you introduce yourself to our listeners?
My name is Dasia. Again, thank you for having me be here. I am a content creator and most recently a video essayist. I try to stay focused on breaking down complex political, economic, cultural topics. I'd say I have a special interest in the way that narratives are weaponized, whether it be through marketing, whether it be through historical revisionism, whether it be through influencer culture. I really like to dive into that to find all the ways that, these things are weaponized to keep people complacent. I cover everything from labor rights to where you found me, billionaire brainwashing and propaganda, the commodification of activism, and then like a lighter side quest, I like to teach people how to roller skate. So that's me. That's how I define my content.
I love this palette. This makes perfect sense to me. We have extremely aligned interests. I can't roller skate, but like maybe one day.
I can get you right.
Incredible. Well, I actually want to open with the first question that I pose to each of my Magical Overthinkers guests, which is simply, what is a delusional thought spiral that's been living rent-free in your head lately?
Ooh. See, I don't know how deep my delusional thought spirals can go. I'd say right now, I'm thinking of the privatization of Social Security and how I see younger people talking about it. And it's incredibly shocking to me because we will have things like what's happening right now where people are freaking out about the stock market dropping. And I'm like, that would have been your 401k. So I guess the spiral that I'm dropping into right now is people not recognizing that by putting your 401k in the stock market, you're almost directly wishing for your own downfall, because how do stocks go up? You know, a company has to like lay people off. They have to a certain extent, commit wage theft. And so your retirement is based in that while you're working for a company. It's just a meta spiral that keeps going in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, like financial literacy in this culture is so poor that we're out here playing checkers, you're playing chess, you know, like, and I wish there were more chess classes, so to speak, so that we could make better political choices as a society. I also wanted to ask before we get into like our central discussion today, I have such immense appreciation for the amount of thought and hard work that goes into essentially like mini one-person documentaries like those that you make on YouTube. They're my favorite type of YouTube video to watch. I loved that you open your billionaire worship video with like, let's overthink about this. And I was like, holy shit, like that is so kismet. Like that is like a soulmate, brainmate kind of thing going on here. And I'm just like, tell me, Dasia, how did you get into the field that you're in? Like, how did you start talking about the topics that you talk about? And like, how do you keep your head held high when like so much imposter syndrome is possible, you know?
Yeah, I'd say that I was really, really lucky in the sense that I had great elementary school teachers that were just like fanning the flame of curiosity. They would do things that were kind of out of the box to get us to learn. They would do things that would make us get out of our chairs. I remember being in like fifth grade and running for student council and like us holding elections and having a campaign with our peers and do all of these things that I would say made me fall in love with learning. So I feel kind of greedy in the sense that I got to start with like a solid bench because I had really good teachers where I could ask like a really far out question and they had an answer for it. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Like you guys are like professional learners. You're like the storytellers and griots of entire generations. And I feel like people don't clock how important teachers are for setting the stage. So I'd say them. And then my background is in marketing and leadership development and very like deep corporate sector stuff. So I have all of these experiences, but I've also like lived behind the curtain of like, here's how we sell you this product. And like, I had like my Amazon boss babe stint, which is like soul crushing, but it also really shows you like how many things are completely manufactured. I feel like a lot of times if you are an overthinker, you recognize patterns or you come to concepts that you figure, because you said imposter syndrome, you're probably doubting yourself. You're like, everybody already knows this. No one cares about it.
Yes.
Then
completely.
Like, if anything, you're like, I'm behind. How did I not know about this? But the reality of the situation is people don't. So I'd fall down these rabbit holes and then I'd start talking about them and people are like, oh my God, tell me more. And I'm like, what? Like, you don't know about this already? And so I stopped looking at me overthinking as this issue and started looking at it as a way to like, oh, I can help other people know about this. And like maybe in some small way it can make their day-to-day life better. So it's like accepting the overthinking as like, wow,
tool.
a tool. You actually enjoy diving into these topics and to be able to like give that back and, you know, hopefully make people love learning the way that my initial bench helped me love learning is kind of like the goal.
Yes. That's such an interesting way of putting it that I guess I've not devoted like a bunch of careful attention to, but it sounds like as overthinkers and like deeply profoundly curious people who not only love to learn but love to share, we get the liberty of like accessing academic materials like we're in the information age, as I often reference on this podcast, which can be overwhelming, but also information is democratized and like we can access materials that you maybe once could only get in a graduate program, a PhD program. Like you can just fucking read them. Like empirical studies are on the internet for free, or like you can get someone's JSTOR login. And then we get to draw cross-disciplinary connections. That's what sociology is, even in a formal academic setting. Like you're just drawing correlations and like coming up with an argument to support it based on research other people have done and your own silly little ideas. Yeah. So I don't know. I think what you're doing is like so fucking cool and so legit. And like, I believe in YouTube University, you know? So thank you, Professor. I know all too well that starting a business can be super intimidating and a little bit lonely at times, especially if you're embarking on endeavors that you have no experience in, like starting a merch shop. When I first started podcasting, I did not know the first thing about selling merchandise online, which is why I am so glad that tools like Shopify exist. Finding the right business tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything can be such an incredible game changer. And for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to my little merch shop, amandamontell.store, where you can buy Overthinker sweatshirts and hats. Get started with your own design studio. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand style. Shopify is also packed with tools to help you with product descriptions, page headlines, any kind of online content. They have email and social media marketing tools. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/magical. Go to shopify.com/magical. Shopify.com/magical. Oh my goodness, not to overshare on this Overthinkers podcast, but I was never into bras, okay, until I discovered Skims. I thought bras were a cage. They felt constricting and pokey, and I didn't want to mess with it. But I have been wearing the Skims Fits Everybody collection bras for 3 years, and they're amazing. I'm literally wearing one right now. I'm not kidding when I tell you that Skims ushered me into adult womanhood with their t-shirt bra. My tatas have never looked better. I'm so sorry I said tata like that, but you just have to trust me that these are incredible products, well made, comfortable, and I love their underwear too. My top drawer is dominated by Skims products. These are hyped products for a reason. I really appreciate Skims sizing. Their sizing range is substantial. I just truly recommend if you're in the market for bras and underwear and other kind of loungy stuff, you got to check it out. Shop Skims Fits Everybody collection at skims.com and Skims New York flagship on 5th Avenue. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. So let's get into the topic at hand, which was really inspired by your video. You spoke historically, culturally, from every juicy angle about the rise of billionaire worship in this culture. Now, what's funny is that the major part of this sweet listenership disdains billionaires. We're already on that same page. But could you sort of paint a portrait of what the general American attitude toward billionaires is as you see it today? And how has that attitude changed throughout history?
Wow. Okay, so that's a big question because I feel like right now, yes, there is a growing resentment towards billionaires, which is sort of inevitable. Like you think about the more people that are realizing that the American dream printer is not going brrr anymore. But we're actually like in a really weird split, I think. You have younger generations, especially like Gen Z and younger millennials that have like this increasing skeptical attitude towards billionaires. It's like we're starting to like teeter in a way that I haven't really seen before because we're experiencing like the economic inequality real time. I think the rise of the monetization of the internet, the ability to make money on the internet, has given birth to like this boomerification of a lot of Gen Z where they're like, I'll work 100 hours and hustle and I'll do this and da da da. So it's like a genuine split off that we're seeing. And then, of course, you have the older generations who completely are within it, believe it. They're coming around, though. What inspired that billionaire worship video is I was talking to my dad and he was like, oh, yeah, you just got to have the right mindset. And I was like listening to this propaganda fall out of my dad's mouth, who for the most part is like pretty even keeled. And I'm like, Dad, what? I probably would have let it slide, but he had started talking about like how fantastic Elon was. And I'm like, Dad, I got to wake you up to Elon because we can't do this right now. He was still very much in the sweetheart. Elon Musk is our Tony Stark. And I'm like, oh, here, let me run you how that's not what we made a mistake. Okay. Okay. Put it back in the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're in a split right now. Older generations, 100%. The billionaires are proof that hard work pays off. If you're rich, you're a genius. I think the younger generation knows that they don't necessarily have to be a genius, but I think the internet and the ability to monetize has made them more boomerified than a lot of them realize. So yeah, I think it's kind of, we're in a little split, but we're eking that way. We're eking in the direction for the majority. I think for a long time, it was just like marginalized groups who got a grasp on it. But I think that we're in this really weird space where a lot of people can't fully blame the system yet because they've been like brainwashed into not saying anything about the system because that goes against rugged individualism, you know?
Totally, totally. Right. Of course, like people who grow up thinking that the American dream is for them because of their privilege and the examples that they've seen. And like that factors into my tragic optimism too. Like, but I never dreamed of making money. Like I dreamed of, I mean, this is like equally delusional, but I dreamed of being a self-sustaining artist. And then I also see like with the billionaire stuff, this like hardcore survivorship bias factoring in where we like focus only on the like select successes while ignoring all the accompanying failures that you never see. You know,
Everything.
Peter Thiel's fucking like advocacy of dropping out of college to become a billionaire. And it's like, that is not like a cause and effect. Drop out of college, you will become a billionaire. Like, what a setup to fail. But so much history in this country has led us to this place.
I love that you brought that up because I was thinking about that phrase. It's a phrase I feel like I only hear in the context of like toxic masculinity or trying to like shame someone, but it's like good times make soft people or soft men. I think something that's more encompassing would be like good times make forgetful people. Because when we're thinking about in the context of billionaires, to your point, okay, you're not paying attention to all the background things. You're not paying attention to the fact that a lot of the ways that billionaires make money is through exploitation. And then when you think about all the regulations that are put in place to prevent that exploitation, to where now we're in a position where people are like, get rid of this. We don't need regulations. It's like, you guys forgot why these things were put in place in the first place. If they were going to play nice, we wouldn't have needed the regulations. Like we've forgotten why you need OSHA, why you need EPA, why we need people to inspect our food to make sure it's not covered in fecal matter. Like,
Exactly. Okay. So let's get a little bit of historical context because obviously, like, the notion of $1 billion and like so many people in this country and in the world having $1 billion is fairly new just because like there was once a time when the word billion was literally just like something
imaginary.
Dr. Evil would say as a joke. Like we literally didn't have billionaires, but we did have really, 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 really fucking rich people. And I've heard from a few sources, including in your content, that we've entered a second Gilded Age. So the first Gilded Age was the time of the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, who were also their own kind of tech guys, you know, like today's billionaires, except tech at the time was not digital. It was like railroads. And that Gilded Age was because of this like gross wealth inequality, ridiculous distribution of wealth like we're seeing today. Yeah. And that Gilded Age was famously followed by the Great Depression, which again is something that we maybe forget as we glamorize the Gilded Age. But when, as you see it, did the modern day Gilded Age, the Bezos billionaire era, really start, and what historical factors are responsible for it?
Okay, so when we're thinking like the modern, I feel like we can't ignore Reaganomics, because Reaganomics kind of set the stage for the dot-com bubble. We start to get marketing messages pushed down the line during the Reagan administration about wealth accumulation is good and wealthy people are job creators. Whereas before, the attitude was kind of tentative. It's like, okay, well, you guys kind of screwed us over 50 years ago. And we kind of have like these little spouts coming up of us being like very pro business. But for the most part, everyone's on the same page that like, let's stay away from like monopolies and, hey, we need strong labor union protections. And it wasn't until we start to hit the 80s and situations where cities are running bankrupt and things like that are what led people to kind of, okay, well, let's trust business again. Up until that point, like business was kind of like, even though they had been working behind the scenes in the background, there's always been like economic think tanks, business roundtables that have been working in the background to try and get people more pro-business. It wasn't until like the 80s where we started tying the economy to business, business to freedom, freedom to the American dream, and then kind of keeping that circle happening. And then I'll make a future video about this, but I feel like Bill Clinton is like totally underhated as a president. And I feel like him combined with Ronald Reagan and like bringing in neoliberalism, which is like, oh, we're going to be the new Democrats and we're going to move towards privatization and we're going to do all these things to kind of increase wealth, is really kind of what shifted and set the stage. So Reagan's tax cutting, deregulating. Clinton comes in, he's deregulating and then also boosting up like privatization industries. And then, we have the dot-com bubble. And then around like 2008, we have the housing crisis. And I personally think that when wealth became cemented as like a priority was the bailouts that happened in 2008. We didn't have people getting bailed out. We had these corporations and these banks that were too big to fail. And I think that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, with America like willingly allowing the business class to be like, all right, we are top priority for America. And then we start to see it in every major event after, business kind of being that priority focus.
Damn. And the ingredients were there, right? Because like Calvinism arrived in this country right away, like as soon as its formation, which came along with this idea that like your earthly #blessings and your heavenly blessings were connected. God rewards those who work hard, who make money. If you have money, it's a sign that God loves you. And so the ingredients were there. We maybe haven't taken them as literally as the Calvinists or as like the founders of the multi-level marketing industry. But your mentioning of Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton reminded me of two sociological factors that probably also contributed to today's billionaire worship. First, Reagan, as you were explaining, was someone who was very pro-business, very pro-deregulation, and really like elevated business leaders as demigods. Meanwhile, he was an actor, an entertainer who is now a political authority. So we're really scrambling types of authorities now, right? It's like entertainers can be politicians, business leaders can be demigods. Now, look, business leaders can be politicians, can be celebrities, can be demigods. Like, these are all types of like saints in the religion of the American dream, and they can all centralize in one person. And right now that's Elon Musk, right? So like the steps were there. And then Bill Clinton, it's interesting, like I came across this factoid while I was researching my second book, Cultish, but those who've ever taken an interest or gone down a rabbit hole researching multi-level marketing MLMs know that like Donald Trump is the most pro MLM president in history. It only makes sense. And he's like lent his name to all these MLMs or whatever and has accepted like big checks from these super exploitative pyramid schemes, allegedly. But Bill Clinton has also accepted big checks from Amway to speak to the direct sellers organization and promote multi-level marketing. So
we love elevating people to the point of celebrity. We love it on this show that is America. Ooh, who's in this episode? We live for it.
it is Mental Health Awareness Month, a great reminder that if you've been thinking about trying therapy, there is no time like the present. But finding the right therapist can be tricky. I know that all too well. It's not just about convenience, it's also about finding the right fit. Whether you're looking for someone who shares your background or lived experience, who's in your insurance network, who's geographically close to you, who makes appointments convenient with virtual offerings. I know before I found my therapist, I was very concerned about rapport. Whatever your concern is, ZocDoc helps you easily find and book mental health providers based on what matters most to you. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. It's not just mental health providers, it's so many different types of specialties, from mental health to dental health, urgent care, primary care, and more. And once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and instantly book. I have been a ZocDoc user for going on 7 or 8 years. I literally don't book doctor's appointments any other way. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/magical to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/magical. ZocDoc.com/magical. Sweet magical overthinkers, it is finally summer, and I gotta tell you, there is no better time to think about ways that you can save money, particularly on bills that you don't like to pay, like your wireless plan. This is why I am so excited that Mint Mobile is sponsoring this podcast. Mint Mobile is truly a wireless provider that you do not have to overthink about because you know for a fact that they're charging a reasonable price. Indeed, thanks to Mint Mobile, you can say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Because you can get premium wireless plans for just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, all delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring over your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Indeed, ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service through Mint Mobile for just $15 a month. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/magical. That's mintmobile.com/magical. Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm obviously really interested in language and how our everyday language reflects our values. What are some common phrases and idioms in American English that you've noticed subtly perpetuate the culture of billionaire worship without us even realizing it?
Oh, this is a good one. Okay. Probably the one that comes to my mind most immediately, and probably not immediately to a lot of people, is taxation is theft. I feel like we don't even grasp that that statement is true if you don't feel like you have transparency, meaning the work that your government is doing is buried beneath so many other things, and you're not able to see how your taxes are furthering your everyday life. And so, yes, you see money being taken out of your check and you're like, taxation is theft. You're not clocking that taxes pay for so many things around you. And then in the absence of taxes, how would those things be taken care of? And you're not paying attention to the fact that you should probably be more focused on wage theft. It's not that your taxes are too much for the type of society we as Americans have come to expect. It's that you're not being paid enough. That's the reality of the situation. And that's going to be a very difficult thing to do with an organization that is focused exclusively on record profits by any means necessary. You're not being paid enough. Your time is being robbed. So by us putting the emphasis on taxes and the expectations that we have of our government, we're ignoring the fact that these corporations are, to a certain extent, in a lot of places, operating under a slavery ship model and getting away with it. Your time is becoming worth less and less and less. and not because you're putting any less output. We're the most productive we have ever been. You're being paid less. So I'd say taxation is theft is a huge one that we kind of throw out because it sounds good. Yeah, I don't want to pay taxes. Okay. Roads. Like, what are we doing when we're saying these things? What's happening when we're not paying attention to the wider society of what our taxes are supposed to go to and fund and take care of? Like, what expectations do we have of our government? And how do you think that those things should come to fruition without taxation? I think another one is a lot of these are rooted in ignoring systemic barriers. So you have pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Okay. Where does predatory lending fall in the context of pulling myself up by my bootstraps? How does that work? Like, we're not paying attention to the system, which is purposeful, right? Because if you can whip yourself over the head so much as an individual and you're still operating within a system of what you are allowed to do, unfortunately, like, that's the reality of the situation. They've earned it, especially in the context of billionaires. Like, when I have people defending billionaires, it's because they've earned it. Or, okay, so this one's kind of a two-parter. Someone just said it to me the other day. They get I trust Trump and Elon because they don't take a salary. That tells me a couple of different things about you. It tells me that you see money as the highest form of good, and because of that, you assign money with morality, and that means to you that you can't do anything bad if you have money. And the only time people do things bad is when they're trying to make money. But that completely lets me know also that you have no concept of like power as a form of currency. You have no concept of influence as a form of currency. You're so focused on the material aspect of money that it blinds you to everything else. You're not asking the questions or even seeing the things that you should see because you're telling yourself, well, if they have money and they're taking this job for free, they could be on an island golfing, but they're doing this. So they must have the morality to run a country.
Nothing breeds hustling for more. Who's that?
That's Nymeria. She's being a sweet girl.
Oh my God. What does she look like?
Oh, she's very round. Let me show you my little round girl.
Oh my God. You are gorgeous. Look at her stripes.
She's very round and very sweet.
She is perfect.
She'll ask for pets. She'll come and tap me.
Nymeria will inherit the earth.
Oh, goodness. She deserves it.
She does. We need this at this point in the conversation. No, I mean, well, but what I was going to say before this much needed interruption was nothing breeds hustling for more money like already having it. Like, it's an addiction. Hello? That's what greed is.
Not only is it an addiction, but again, after a certain level, people make money differently. They have different obligations.
Exactly.
You're able to buy land and a building, a commercial building, not with money. Okay, I own this much in unvested stocks. I have 3 billion in unvested stocks. I don't have to give you cash. My stocks are collateral. So it's not like, oh, they're getting a check and they're paying for things. They have to keep things going because if not, then all those bills come due immediately.
Exactly. And this is like the type of shit that we do not learn. Like, I think in the past and recently, I'll be honest, when I thought of a billionaire, I thought of someone who had 1 billion $1 bills in their bank account. But no, they have a bunch of pretend assets. And this is the thing. Okay, maybe some of the assets aren't pretend, but a lot of them are. Like, name something more pretend than a stock, than a Bitcoin. We already have poor instincts when it comes to non-material currency. We're barterers, baby. Like, I don't know what a dollar is. My soul doesn't know what's fair when it comes to like anything other than like a basket of berries for a satchel of nuts. That's what my soul knows. That's not how it works anymore. And like, literacy for numbers is like so poor. I struggle to conceive of $100,000. A billion is 1,000 millions.
I think I read somewhere that if you counted 1 second every day, it would take you 32 years to get to a billion. 32 years of counting to get to a billion seconds.
Yeah.
That's how much money goes long.
This one tweeter, Jeremiah Red, said, if you worked every day making $5,000 a day from the time Columbus sailed to America to the time you are reading this tweet, which was in 2019. You would still not be a billionaire and you would still have less money than Jeff Bezos. And someone like corrected the math and it was true. And all of these equations, if you made, this is like, if the SATs were like this, I probably would have done better. If you made $100 an hour and worked 10-hour days every single weekday of the year, it would still take you almost 4,000 years to become a billionaire.
Yeah, there's no grasp of how huge the number. I asked my dad, I said, Dad, how long do you think it would take you to spend $1 billion? He goes, like maybe like 10 months. No, it wouldn't take you 10 months.
No, I mean, like, you literally don't need $1 billion. You don't even want $1 billion. You don't even have $1 billion. It's just about power.
That's it. It's power after a certain point. We're not even talking like quality of life. Hey, I'm going to live a good life. My family's going to live a good life. This is so far beyond that I don't even think people grasp.
It's literally like deity shit.
Yeah.
So regarding like the taxation is theft point, do you think that people are literally modeling that on the fact that they know that billionaires are able to skirt taxes? Are they like leading by that example?
Sure, some people are, but I feel like because they can't see it, you'll have somebody who's like fully on Medicaid and receiving food stamps and being like taxation is theft. And it's like, no, brother, it's not. And the reason why I don't feel like they're taking that example from them is because a lot of them feel like billionaires pay their fair share of taxes. So much so that I was on Threads and some guy was like, the problem that I have with you people when you say tax the billionaires or eat the rich is it starts at $400,000 a year. And that's uncomfortably close to the salary range that I would like to be in. And that's something that's attainable for me. And I'm like, brother, you don't even have this. And you have this aspirational cross-class solidarity. I think it's more so that than them thinking billionaires don't pay taxes. Why should I? I think a lot of people do think billionaires pay taxes and they think they pay their fair share. And they think that even suggesting that you should tax them appropriately is like you're stealing from them. So maybe yes.
Yes, that's a much better way of putting it, is that aspirational class solidarity that I know you've talked about, and that is baked into that American dream mentality. It's like, we want the best for billionaires because, reflective of that thread that you saw, we might become one.
That's the salary range I'd like to be in. What?
But famously, you're not in it. And to admit that would be to give up on the dream. And that doesn't feel good, I guess. But like, we need to perpetuate different commonplace American axioms. Like, can we please coin a counter narrative to taxation is theft that's like sexy and catchy to start spreading right now?
And I feel like that's kind of the only way. I have this theory that we need to make civic citizen engagement sexy. Like, we're like, we need these third spaces. Town hall needs to be your third space. Go with your friends, go to your city halls. Like, that's what it needs to be, because it doesn't matter like what side of the spectrum you're on, where you fall politically. If you're living in an area and you notice that, hey, affordable housing isn't happening, they're giving these deals to these developers and the developers are only giving us, 2 places out of 60. It doesn't matter what part of the aisle you're on, you going to that town hall to make your voice heard. And it's like, I saw something the other day that were like, people have never been more divided. I'm like, false. But also we're divided because there's no like common ground, because it's all getting defunded and taken away.
You're so right. And I feel like, honestly, your skills and mine are well suited to like,
let's make this good again. Let's make it cool again.
Yes. Like, we should make like town hall the new fucking boozy brunch. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about making people feel like they're a good person. It's about making people feel like they can post about it on Instagram and look sexy.
That's it. Look at me being civically engaged. Look at me. Did you ask your mayor questions?
We need to come up with like a rhyming phrase to kick us off, something zingy to start us. Like, this is why, like, you can't stop scammers from scamming, but you can scam for good.
Yeah. You can be good trouble.
Exactly. So you and I both are interested in the celebrification of wealthy business leaders. My question for you is, what forms of uniquely American delusion and magical thinking do you think create a culture of billionaire worship?
Oh, yeah.
That wealth, yeah.
100%. So I think I'd have to rank them. I think number 3 would be like celebrity influencers. You have reality TV. And oh man, we did it so well. You think about like the early 2000s, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Can you imagine like a Who Wants to Be a Billionaire? That's crazy. That's insane. If you want one show to like critique and go down a rabbit hole, not just from a like trash TV perspective, but from a, oh my goodness, money is our deity. And this man,
Yeah.
like, okay, no shade, Mr. Beast, is like, here, peasant, do this. Turn on your friend for $10,000. And they're doing it. And you're just like, oh my goodness, what has happened?
I mean, it reminds me of like studies, theoretical, double blind, and also like ethically deeply controversial studies that I would like read about in Psych 101 being played out unironically like in TV show form.
Oh, yeah. I'd say for sure celebrity culture, influencers, the idea that if somebody is successful, it's because they are deserving. I think us watching people's wealth has pushed us into the upper echelons. Like a significant portion of our GDP is just straight consumption. Like they do not like it when we're not spending money. I'd say the second would be like America has kind of like this pick me exceptionalism. And I feel like that's cut from our like game show culture, like American Idol. There's one person who is the absolute best and I'm going to be the one to make it. Like we have been groomed to believe that one, we are the best. There's no one as good. And then even within that framework of everyone is good, I will be the one to make it. And you think about like how social media has brought on like the alpha bro radicalization of hustle culture. And it's kind of like the perfect recipe for where we are right now. And then I'd say like third, we kind of already touched on it, would be the cross-class solidarity. You have people who genuinely not only see themselves as billionaires or like, oh, I'm next. They associate a morality. You must be a good person because you have money. And to a certain extent, like you mentioned, religion. Well, you wouldn't have this money if God hadn't picked you and you weren't a great person to be with. And then we kind of like have ignored everything else.
It's pretty fascinating, especially.
Oh, who's that?
Oh, this is Claire.
Hello, Claire. Oh, she's a chatty Cathy.
She's a redheaded woman, which in feline form is very rare. And she knows it. She is very pick-me. But she's also an anarchist. Claire's political identity is fascinating. I've been scrutinizing it for 10 years. Like, first of all, she's profoundly asexual. She's anarchist. She is kind of a Satanist. She's a fascinating cat.
Little dash in there. Okay.
Yeah. That's just an aside. But anywho.
I now want everyone I know to give me the political affiliation of their cats.
My other cat, Teddy Roo, he's totally different. He's like a private school kid. He's not like a Republican, but like maybe the cats that gave birth to him were.
Okay. All right. He's like socially liberal, but like fiscally conservative.
Yes, but I think he's also just like ignorant. He's just like, I am so just like, fucking
I don't know
cute.
What's going on.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what's going on. He's like Daphne in season 2 of White Lotus.
He's like, things are gonna work out for me either way. So I just don't really think about stuff like that.
100%, and that's like infuriating. But he's also an amazing hang. Oh, and he's here now. Ted, would you say that's accurate? He's just like, oh, they're talking about me again. Okay, one more question from me. This is like my girl math question. So we were talking about like the poor numeracy that so many people, including myself, have when it comes to fathoming a number as big as $1 billion. Could you, Dasia, explain in really simple terms what in the motherfucking compound interest has to happen, economically speaking, for someone to acquire $1 billion, Dr. Evil Pinky? As we've said, these people are clearly not just like adding their biweekly paycheck to their Chase college checking account.
They are not doing that. They are not doing that. So sans like marriage, like you think about somebody like Mackenzie Scott, who's a billionaire because she divorced Papa Bezos. Sans that, billionaires profit from underpaid workers. They profit from automation. They profit from supply chains. that are all designed to maximize their revenue. You can't get to a certain point without exploiting. And I think that's what people aren't realizing. And then a lot of their wealth, as we talked about earlier, is in stocks, it's in assets. They're not taking money out of their banking account and going to buy something from the store. Like a lot of it is collateral, influence, relationships. They have tools that we don't have, that we're not even touching, like tax evasion. We're definitely not even touching lobbying. Like you do not have the ability to lobby, to make money, to deregulate an entire system. Or, I mean, government subsidies or bailouts. You have people trying to cut social services, but will not touch, the government subsidies that bail them out. So there's so many ways that they are creating wealth by exploiting systems that you don't have access to, that you're completely unaware of. And then also being able to influence the rules. America would not be the rich nation that it is without 400 years of unpaid labor. It's been happening. No matter what you say, like if I am a business owner and I have employees and I don't pay them, then all the money that I'm making, I get to keep and put back into my business. Employees are a huge expense, a huge, huge expense. And if I can minimize that and eke production out of you, then that's what I'm going to do. We're not even talking privatization or anything like that, like taking public goods and turning them private and then taking that money on the aft end. There's so many ways. And I just need people to stop thinking that the billionaire clocks in and takes a paycheck every 2 weeks, because that's not even close to being what's happening.
Ooh, you summarizing all of that reminds me of like a completely separate point that I will be making in a completely separate episode of this podcast about the anthropomorphization of businesses that has gotten more and more extreme in the age of therapy speak. I did some reporting for Harper's Bazaar a couple years ago about the rise of therapy speak in the workplace. And the most disturbing thing I gleaned from writing that piece was about how certain business leaders are applying therapy terminology that's supposed to humanize people to their business, as if the business has feelings and the business has boundaries and business has a pathology.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like another layer of that is, okay, hey, you're going to start working at, giant corporation A, and we're going to give you 60 stocks, but those stocks don't vest or they don't become real until 2 years after you have this job. And so you have people who are working and then they'll tell you, well, you're an owner. You're an owner in this business. So it's like, it's so terrible the way that you are brainwashed in these ways. And you're telling yourself that, yeah, I'm an owner of these stocks that haven't vested in 2 years and they're going to fire me after a year and a half. So I will never have those stocks that I was promised. But here I am working like an owner. It's the things like that that are so insidious that if you're not paying attention, you fall victim to. You will be marketed to effectively.
Completely. And we want to be marketed to effectively.
And we want to. We are such good consumers. We're so good.
So actually, I have one last question from me before we get into some thought spirals. I don't love to buy things more than like anyone I know, but like I definitely like to buy things. What is your number one tip for those of us who like to buy little things? How can we consume in a way that benefits billionaires the least?
I would just say mindfully consuming, because they don't want you to not be buying things. And I think that if more people just paid just a little bit attention to what they're buying, they would probably buy significantly less or be more strategic with their buys. And I say this because, there's boycotts happening right now, and the amount of people that I saw who were like, boycotting doesn't work and da 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 da. And I'm like, brother, we had a pandemic. What are you talking about? That was like the boycott experience where you could see what happens if the world stops. Like if we just stop buying shit, you know what happens? Your government panics and they start trying to give you money to stimulate the economy. That's what happens. Like, yes, it wasn't like, okay, we're taking a stand. This is a boycott. We're shut down, but the effects are still the same. And it's like, just thinking about it. Maybe you don't have to get that thing from Amazon. Maybe you don't have to, maybe you go support a local entity and it's okay. Like I'd say consume mindfully. I can't give you like a what. I would just say be mindful about it, because you'd actually probably be surprised. You could order that chocolate off Amazon. You could go to like the local chocolatier and then like make a neighbor And then, when the world ends, you can barter some chocolate.
100%. And you know what the billionaires also don't want us to do? They don't want us to make things. They don't want us to make things ourselves. And not only does that keep us in a prison of consumption, it keeps us lonely. Because if we're just ordering shit off Amazon alone in our house, that doesn't foster the kind of communalism that a DIY project would. And that keeps us in misery, which keeps us ordering things on Amazon to fill the void. Like, it is a conspiracy.
Okay, so just to add on to that, this is kind of still on the boycott conversation, but it was just super funny to me because the first boycott was like sometime in February. And there were people who were like, I'm filling my cart so I can buy everything to counteract your boycott. And I need people to understand that what's happening is like 5D chess, okay? You are controlling this person to go consume mindlessly. And you might have purchased something that day, but now you're like, well, you know what? I didn't spend this money. I didn't do this, and that was okay. And it's like, if you're mindful and let other people be mindless, the divide will come much faster. So like, don't be mind controlled into like consuming blindly. Oh, I'm going to go buy a Tesla to own the libs. Like, no, like that's crazy. Don't do that. Just think about it.
Period. Okay. Let's get into some of these anonymously submitted thought spirals from listeners, which are going to take us on a journey. The first person says, is anything I do actually worth it if billionaires exist and control basically everything?
I would say billionaires aren't inevitable, and they exist because we allow them to. So whether we're willing to change it or not is the question that we should be asking, not necessarily if what I'm doing is worth it.
Next thought spiral says, the existence of billionaires is a massive policy failure on the part of the US government.
I wouldn't say policy failure. I would say it was deliberate policy choices. So, I mean, I hate this phrase, but it's not a failure. It is working as intended.
Next thought spiral says, why do I feel like I have to save the world when billionaires are the ones ruining it?
I think because you're a human being, and human beings, for the most part, try to aim up or err to the side of good, which should tell you how different you are from billionaires, because you would probably do things very differently if you had $1 billion. So don't be hard on yourself in that aspect. Just means you're human.
So a follow-up question to that one goes, at what dollar amount does one become evil and corrupt?
I feel like you don't need that much. I'd say like maybe like 100 million, you become a little.
Oh my God.
High? Is that too high?
I was thinking like 10 million is probably too low, but like,
I feel like you could be gifted 10 million. Like you could win the lottery. Oh my God, I sound like, oh my God, you could win the lottery.
it could happen to anyone. It could happen to you.
If you win the lottery, are you immediately becoming a monster? I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
Yeah, right. It has to be an amount of money that you can't accumulate overnight.
Whatever it is that makes it so that you like no longer have to drive or do your own groceries or like do day-to-day interactions, I would say like the cliff is close. You should be careful. Like the further you get from everyday life, I think you just become like way disconnected.
That is such a good benchmark because that fucks your empathy skills.
Yeah. Once the post office is out, you should like be aware.
Oh my God. That's so fucking real. The next thought spiral goes, the only way to become one is through exploitation.
Yeah. I mean, or like if you marry one, but then again, you like also have to be okay with like how that was made. But for the most part, once you start getting up into certain, you know what? Like Oprah might be, I haven't done a huge deep dive into Oprah's. She's out of touch right now. I get it. But like in terms of like harming people to get where she is, she might be like one of the few like, and that's like true bootstrapping, like didn't have anything.
For sure.
I'll do some research into her to see if she's an exception for the arrival point.
Oh, I can't wait for your Oprah video. Amazing. Okay. Yeah. The next thought spiral goes, how do they rationalize hoarding all this money when they could help millions?
I think because after a certain level, you take on deservedness. Well, if I have it and you don't, it's because I'm better than you. And I mean, we see Papa Elon playing with eugenics every 5 minutes. Like, I deserve this, you don't. And I think at one point in time, he just like retweeted some meme that said, the only people who have problems with this is the parasite class. So I think there becomes like a disconnect.
There dehumanizing and humanizing all the wrong things. Like, I really do feel like they think their businesses and their money are sentient and actual people are not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you were kind of right with we humanize billionaires and we address them on like an individual level and won't do the same to like your neighbor up the street. I don't have to pay taxes because I don't have kids. And it's like, well, you don't care if the kids in your neighborhood go to school? You don't care about that, but you care if Elon Musk doesn't get tax cuts? That's so weird.
And it's almost self-hating, the aspirational class solidarity. It's like you disdain your neighbor because you disdain yourself. You identify with Elon, you know, like that's all very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's cool too. I get it. I get it. Whenever I see people who are like falling off the right-wing pipeline, I'm like, you know what? I get it. I get it because it looks cool. Oh, you have all this, but it's all like surface level and stuff, you know? Like if this person was genuinely happy, would they be doing all of this?
Yeah, maybe we need to just like legalize shrooms like Canada.
I'm trying to tell you, like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I feel like so much awakening could happen as a collective society if people would just like a couple shrooms.
Yeah, could we just do like a little microdosy on psilocybin all together? Just like make it happen.
Just tap in.
A little bit in the afternoon, you know, in the daytime, in the sunshine. Okay. There were so many thought spirals about overthrowing by way of guillotine and other methods. I guess I'll ask this one. When do we have a revolution against them for ruining the world like we used to with royalty?
Do you know what? It's so funny because I remember like 2 years ago, someone asked this question on TikTok. They were like, you know, what would it take to have a revolution? And my answer then is the same as my answer now is I don't think any revolution is coming until white people, for the most part, recognize that they're Black, that everybody is Black. Once they recognize that everybody is Black, then they can stop upholding the system of thinking like, well, it's not going to happen to me. Everybody's going to get it. Like everybody's getting it. And you're starting to see it now where people are like, I didn't think this would impact me. And it's like, well, that's because you didn't know that you were Black.
Can you break that down for like my dumb ass? Because I think I know what you're saying.
So recently I read that America's been like put on like a human rights watch list. But this was very funny to me because there's no way that you can look at history and look at the way that, you know, Native Americans have been treated, Black Americans have been treated, and not attribute that treatment to human rights violations. But who's going to check America? Nobody. So America can go and play big bad boss in other places. We're the arsenal of democracy in other places, and then come back and commit human rights violations against their own people. And for the most part, it doesn't get treated the way that it should because it's happening to marginalized groups. The reason I say, you know, we can't have a revolution until, you know, everybody recognizes that they're Black. It would probably be the same as like you're Native, you are the marginalized people. It's a class war, baby. Like there's the billionaire class and everyone else. And until people realize that it's everyone else, then we're kind of like stuck because there's always going to be some people. So I guess I should expand it. It's not just white people now because, you know, we have like a rainbow coalition of like billionaire pro bros and da 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 da. So now I guess I have to expand that original statement and say, hey, you know, once the majority gets on the same page of understanding that like we are all marginalized and hey, it might look good right now from your seat, but because you are not a billionaire, you are kind of still in the same room as us, whether you realize it or not. So once everybody realizes we're in the same room, then we can like move forward as a collective. So I retract my previous statement and I expand it. I expand it.
Yeah. And I feel like on the poor numeracy point, like if we had just like a sexy fucking infographic to communicate that for all our visual learners, then maybe some light bulbs would go off.
Yeah. But I think more people are waking up to it. More people are yearning and they're just not sure what is the next step. And I think like a lot of people get angry because they're like, you know, we need to go and do this. And like you said, guillotine immediately. And it's like, yeah, but like, I don't think you clock like the little baby steps of like little anarchism and like little resistance pockets that have to happen to get people active in revolution. Like it's a lot of little teeny things and everybody's like right now, da, 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 da. Honestly, we can't have a revolution until people wholly recognize that the ideal state that we want probably for America, it most likely won't happen in our lifetimes. And that's like a very hard thing, but it's like, that's the reality of the situation. So it's like, what can we be doing today to make it that much more ideal for the generation after us or two after us? Because it's not ours.
Yeah, yeah. And like back to a point we made however long ago about like the celebrification of business and the pick me exceptionalism. It's like life is not a movie and you don't get to see the end. We're just here for like 2 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
And we don't get to pick which part we come in.
If you even think that, like, right now we're at the point where we are at that second Gilded Age because wealth inequality is so high. The reason why that's the case is because of the work that was being put in 50 years ago. Like, these people knew the work that they were putting in, they wouldn't be able to see the fruits of their labor. And that's what we have now. And so it's like, you know, even if you're one of those people who are like down with the system and and capitalism needs to not exist, the ideal state of that you will not see. And it's like, are you willing to do the work still with that in your mind that like, I'm not going to see this, but we can still work at it and get closer. And, you know, maybe the people after me can have an easier go at it and not experience like the theft that I'm feeling. But that's like, you have to be so unselfish.
Totally. And I think like, yeah, we obviously like instant gratification is more of an expectation in our society than ever because of like how we interact with technology. So then maybe we need to do these like sort of, yeah, like selfless things that we won't see the benefits of. But along the way to make that more tolerable, we can microdose on anarchy and microdose on mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it keeps pushing the window. Like the window of acceptability for like basically everything has shifted so much, even from like 10, 15 years ago. Like the idea of like the things that people were throwing a fit about 10, 15 years ago now would be like a drop in the bucket. And it's
For
like
sure.
recognizing that we're just pushing. And it's not, there's not an arrival point here. And maybe like that's what we focus on, because you'll get depressed if you're only like, it needs to be this now. It's like, it's not going to be.
Totally.
And it might not be
Yeah.
in like 20 years, and it might not be in 30 years.
Hell yeah. Okay. This has been so illuminating, such a great conversation. My very, very last question for you, Dasia, is what do you think is the number one thing people are overthinking with respect to billionaire worship? And what is the number one thing you think people are underthinking?
Overthinking that billionaires need salaries to be motivated. I think that we're overthinking that. Well, they can't possibly be doing something bad because they don't take a salary. Like that's you're overthinking that, bro. You wouldn't do something for a salary. That's you, and you're applying how you would move to this person who's, you know, amassed billions of dollars and already showed you that they wouldn't do what you would do in other aspects. Like your family probably wouldn't be hungry, or like your neighborhood would probably be good if you were a billionaire, and that's not what's happening over here. And then I'd say underthinking, I'd say their allegiance to cross-class solidarity. Realistically, like break it down and really think about what is happening here. You're rooting for people to lose their jobs and be fired, and social services to be cut while being on them, while receiving help from the government. So like completely underthinking the citizen mindset versus your consumer mindset. Like we have been brainwashed into being consumers and overlooking, you know, our rights as citizens and what we deserve as tax-paying citizens. Consumers do what they're told. They buy what they're told to buy. That's it. They don't demand transparency. They don't demand accountability. They don't have expectations of their government. They just buy what they're told to buy. So I think we're completely underthinking our role as citizens in America and the things that we allow. And I think that a lot of times the reason why we do that is because we're like, well, I'm going to do this one thing and it doesn't matter. What I want people to realize more than anything is a lot of the times things don't happen because people aren't doing the things that they're supposed to do and then getting told no. If you don't do the things you're supposed to do, if you don't, you know, you're not civically engaged, you don't know what's going on, there's always going to be some level of powerlessness. Now, if you do those things and the door is slammed in your face, you can adjust and say, okay, I did what you told me to do. And you close the door in my face. Now we move to the next level. But we have to do those bench things first. People have to build the muscle of doing things and then moving on to the next level versus, doing nothing and being like, well, nothing's happening. It always leaves us with nothing versus I did this. I did it the way that you told me and you disrespected me or you closed the door and then we go up. So we're underthinking our relationship in that regard.
Totally. Thank you for that. If people want to keep up with you and your work, where can they find you?
I'm spending most of my time on YouTube these days. I'm kind of moving away from the short form because I think what needs to happen next in our society is going to require the people with sustained attention. So if you are still here in this video, please come and check me out over on YouTube. My name is Dasia Sade, Dasia Sade. If you want to overthink with me or if you want to learn how to roller skate, because your girl can get you roller skating too, find me on YouTube.
Hell yeah. And thank you, listeners, so much for tuning into this episode. Now's the time where I share a nugget of evidence-based advice for how we overthinkers can get out of our own heads this week. This one comes from an article that Dr. Jeremy Sutton wrote for Positive Psychology, and it has to do with something called the peak end rule. Let me explain. So the peak end rule is a psychological phenomenon where people tend to judge an experience mostly based on how it felt at its most intense moment, aka its peak, and then at its conclusion or its end, without necessarily evaluating the full overall holistic average of the feeling throughout the duration of its experience. It almost reminds me of the recency effect or the primacy effect in memory, where we tend to call to mind either the first example in a list or the last example in a list, which is why I remember when I was a kid in community theater and auditioning for shows, I always wanted to go either first or last so that I would be remembered. Anyway, memory is imperfect, especially when we're talking about emotions. That's the point. So when we go through an experience and only focus on how it felt during its peak and during its end, sometimes we fail to realize that the majority of the experience actually felt totally different than that. So it can be a good perspective shifting strategy to become aware of this peak end effect or bias, you could say. And one way to take advantage of it is to sort of reflect at the end of an experience or a day on what it felt like at different sort of equal intervals throughout, so that you can have a more balanced view of it and not a selective one. And that can be helpful for deriving meaning or lessons or gratitude from something that you go through. Well, with that, thanks so much again for listening. I hope you tune in for another thought spiral in a couple of weeks. And until then, remember, think it over. Just don't overthink it. Magical Overthinkers was created and hosted by Amanda Montell and edited by Jordan Moore of The Pod Cabin. Our theme music is by Casey Kolb. Thank you to our magical manager, Katie Epperson, coordinator, Reese Oliver, and Network Studio 71. Be sure to follow the pod on Instagram at Magical Overthinkers. We're also on YouTube, link in show notes, and ad-free episodes as well as behind-the-scenes extras are available on the Magical Overthinkers Substack at amandamontell.substack.com.